Today we will have Kevin Locke giving a presentation about Ptehíŋčala Ska Wiŋ. I think I got it pretty right, pretty close.
Close, that's close, yeah.
White Buffalo Calf Woman, the divine messenger to the people of the seven council fires. You and I didn't practice that one, so I will not attempt to pronounce that one. I should have asked you for a little more help. Today we have Kevin Locke, and I have a lot more to say about him than the few things I've put here. I think everybody knows that he plays the traditional flute. And in fact, he just told me that the government of South Dakota has recognized the Lakota flute as, I guess you might say, this, not the state musical instrument, but recognized as a state musical instrument. Is that what it was, Kevin?
Yeah, I think it's the fiddle is the official state instrument, and then the Šiotanka or traditional flute is the official state indigenous instrument.
Uh-huh.
I think that's how it goes, yeah.
That's quite exciting, really.
Yeah.
And of course, we all know Kevin as doing hoop dances and other dances. And of course, as Kevin and I have been reminiscing, Kevin is a great storyteller. And I think that is one of his great strengths, because he'll play the flute and tell the stories of the songs. He'll tell the stories of the dances. He's also one of the preservers of the Lakota language, and one of the people who's very concerned about learning how to use the new orthography with all of the various marks to make sure the sounds are pronounced correctly. So he's a great ambassador for the Lakota people. And of course, he's been a member of the National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of the United States. He's been an advisory board member of Baha'i for a long time, and a great friend of many of us. I am very grateful for all the times I've been able to spend with Kevin. He helped me move into my first house in South Bend, Indiana. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
We've had all kinds of, over the years, many interesting interactions, and I really have treasured our chances to talk and to be friends. And I'm very grateful for that, and very impressed by all that you do and all that you are able to tell us. So today we are very delighted to hear from you about the White Buffalo Calf Woman and about her message. And I will cease talking and turn the floor over to you so you can give us your presentation. Thank you again for joining us today, Kevin. And I will close off my camera and stop sharing my screen here.
Okay, Rob, thank you so much. Yeah, I really do. We go way back, I think, right to the very beginning of since I became a Baha'i, and so I really do treasure all those interactions. It's been really a great experience that we've had. But I also really appreciate the opportunity to share on the Wilmette Institute webinar here today on this particular topic. And this is a topic, I think, which is people are beginning to become more aware of, more conscious of, and that is this theme of the universality of God's message throughout all of humanity. And I didn't put this up on a slide, but we do have we have had ongoing series of presentations through the Wilmette Institute on the indigenous messengers of God, the call of God being raised, and they're largely based upon a tablet. It's referred to as the tablet to Amir Khan, penned by Abdul Baha in response to some queries from a man named Amir Khan. And one of his questions regarded the appearance of divine messengers here in this half of the world, the Western Hemisphere. Maybe he is more particularly interested in North America, but Abdul Baha responded. He said, undoubtedly the call of God hath been raised in that land in ancient times. And there's more to it, but that's just the first part of the tablet, in which there's the possibility of, depending on how it's interpreted, that this would constitute an interesting category of divine messengers, referring to those that have appeared in this part of the world right here. And of course, consideration of this could possibly transform interpretation of history. Of course, this is something in the future, and we can only speculate when historians begin to take into consideration the import and influence of these divine messengers, and the whole purpose of human history. But that's a whole different topic. But this particular topic we're looking at is this the divine messenger, or this holy soul that appeared in here in the heart of North America, and her name is variously properly they say Ptehíŋčala Ska Wiŋ, which you can see here in the standard Lakota orthography, translates as White Buffalo Calf Woman. Many people will just say Ptesáŋwiŋ, which means a white buffalo, a white buffalo woman. But anyway, she appeared to an ethnicity or kindred. It's called the Očhéthi Šakówiŋ. Očhéthi Šakówiŋ, which is the people of the seven fireplaces, or it says people of the seven council fires. And this is how the people are divided or identify themselves according to these seven different subgroups or ethnicities. And they variously speak either the Lakota language or the mutually intelligible cognate, which is Dakota, either way. And so this holy soul that we're referring to, the Ptehíŋčala Ska Wiŋ, she has a very important relationship in the mindset or consciousness of the people. And I'm going to try to move the slide over to the next boy. Oh, there we go, right there. And one of the most famous documentations of her appears in this classic book that's been translated into I don't know how many different languages. It's called Black Elk Speaks. And this Black Elk he's known as Nicholas Black Elk. He resided after settling on the reservation in the community of Manderson. And I was just down there yesterday. My grandson graduated from Lakota Tech down at Wolf Creek School. But it's just close to Manderson. But his descendants still live there. We see them every day. And he's a very well-known man, this Nicholas. He later took the name Nicholas. And he used to stay, I live right on the Grand River here. We call it Palaniwakpa. And he used to stay with Chief One Bull just a few miles from here. And so he's well known. People my age grew up hearing stories about Black Elk and the stories that he told. And he's very well known. And so this man named John Neihart encountered him, and this Black Elk proceeded to tell his story, which is quite elaborate. But in the story, his reference point is the teachings of the Ptehíŋčala Ska Wiŋ. And this is another subsequent book, and it was recorded by Joseph Epps Brown, who I also knew. He was a professor at the University of Montana in Missoula, so I had a chance to meet him. Very wonderful gentleman, and he documented the account of Black Elk, of the basically the teachings of the Ptehíŋčala Ska Wiŋ, the White Buffalo Calf Woman, and then probably the best documentation is this book right here. I just took a little screenshot of it there, but this is the one right here, and this is the original 1917. Was it 1918? Anyway, it's that old. It's over 100 years old. This book here, and it's from Francis Densmore, And Frances Densmore came here, right here, in 1911. She came here in 1911, and she hired the reservation-wide translator, who was from right here, right in this. He's right a couple miles from where I'm sitting right here. His name was Robert Heigl, and so Robert Heigl accompanied her because there at that time there was only just a handful of people around in this area that could speak any kind of European language. And so anyway, this particular this would be really interesting for Baha'is out there. This particular book was given to me by Audrey Reynolds. And she was the first. She and her husband Jonathan, who just passed away, they were the first Baha'is here in this area. And she became interested in this area because she read this book, and she got it in her home country of UK and England. And she read this book, and she was so taken by the account given of the Ptehíŋčala Ska Wiŋ, and this really intrigued her. And she came here just soon after the first World Congress in London in 1963. Anyway, that's kind of beside the point, but that's the book that I showed you right there. But the main thing about this particular book was that the informants, she started going around, Frances Densmore started to go around the area here, and she was just interviewing, finding people who were willing to share information. And finally, some of the elders got together and they told her that she was doing everything wrong. She was doing everything wrong. And that in order for her to proceed, what she had to do was to have let the elders know, the most eminent people around, inform them what her intent was, and that they had to consult about it. So the most eminent and learned elders around the area, they all met, and they decided to hijack her whole project. They hijacked her whole project, and they told her what she had to do in order to proceed. And what they did was that this starts on page 63, but the whole first part of the book, the first 62 pages, is just about her methodology. It was kind of a research paper. But these elders decided that the way they had to proceed was to give the account of the Ptehíŋčala Chanumpa, the appearance of the Ptehíŋčala Ska Wiŋ, the one that brought this. And so this, the first part of the book, it was really the account that given by the man chosen to give the narrative. His name was Ishnala Wicha. He alone is a man. They translate it as lone man, but right here you can see Ishnala Wicha. It really means he alone is a man, but it's translated lone man. But so he's the one identified to give the account, and here he gives the account of her appearance right through here, and he details the ethical teachings that she gave that constitute the very identity, the very foundation of the concept of the people, that upon which the whole civilization of the Lakota was formulated. And so and then here's another book that was it was inspired by the gift of the sacred pipe. It's right here. And it's the reason why I wanted to use this is because of the illustrations. And I know that time is really short, but I'll just go through some of this, and you can see this first. And I'll mention that this was it's based on it is a it is this book by Joseph Brown, documenting Black Elk, but has these beautiful illustrations, and that's why I wanted to use it. And so this first illustration shows the appearance of the Ptehíŋčala Ska Wiŋ. So these two scouts were out. They were out. The people were starving. The people were starving, and so they had to go far, far, and they encountered this holy being approaching. And when this holy soul approached, now these two scouts, the way they tell it, one of them was had a good mind, good heart, good spirit, and the other one was the embodiment of like the lower nature. And so this one wanted to attack this maiden, this woman here. And so one of them told him, no, withhold yourself. But then this woman who already knew what was going on, she told that one to come, and he came. He wanted to attack her, molest her, or whatever. And as he approached, then a cloud enveloped them. When that cloud dissipated, then his bones were just laying there. And now this is the way they always tell it. But when I hear that story, it's really an interesting story for me, because when the good scout, she told him that he had to go back and gather the people to receive her message that she was going to bring. And to me, when I hear that story, the people were so disunified. The reason why they were starving and having so much hardship was because of the disunity and the lack of focus or spirit or anything that was causing all this hardship. And so then how was he able to convince the people to receive this holy soul? And the only thing that I can think of, that he was so transformed that he just radiated this spiritual power, energy, that the people saw and were able to hearken to his message that he was given, the commission that she gave him to bring that glad tiding. And so when I hear that story, what I always think, this is my own private personal opinion, is that there is only one scout. There's only one scout. And when this one scout came into proximity to this holy soul, he was so transformed that lower nature was the one that was symbolically destroyed or overpowered or harnessed, you could say. And then his nobility, the good part of him was the one that triumphed and survived. That's my own private interpretation, which I wanted to bring out right there. But anyway, she did come. She brought this. She brought that what they call the Ptehíŋčala Chanumpa. The Ptehíŋčala Chanumpa, and she brought it to the man. His name was who received it on behalf of all the people. And the reason why I say this is such an important occurrence is because even her songs are still remembered in the winter counts, the way that they account for time. It's called Lakťótiyapi, the winter count. She appeared somewhere around 900 AD, so that's over 1,000 years. But we still have her songs. They survived the oral tradition. And so then this original bundle, the one that received it, was this shows her when she was offering the sacred pipe. She brought it out, and all the songs that are associated with it, we have those up to today. We have those songs. And the one that received the pipe on behalf of all the people living then and future generations, his name was Kakanka Wosla Naji. Kakanka Wosla Naji. means in English should be a buffalo that's standing upright, something like that. And so his descendant is the current keeper today. He lives not too far from here. His name is Orville Looking Horse, and his mother, his parents passed away. His mother is from here, from Standing Rock, this area right here, and his dad was from Snake Creek, is not too far, Stanley, and they were our neighbors, and he used to come visit my mom all the time. It was really because Cecilia and my mom were cousins. Anyway, it's so this, in other words, all this history is so close to us right here. It's so very close to us. And she was there at the time, and she brought all these ethical teachings. She brought all these laws, and then she left. And then when she left, according to the legend, she transformed into a buffalo calf right here, and then she left. And then the first teaching that was introduced, I guess it was in the book The Gift of the Sacred Pipe by Black Elk, and also in the Teton Sioux music, the one I showed just moments ago. The one they mentioned was the Keeping of the Soul, which is significant. I think it's really significant that they mention that hierarchically like that, because it really is the main teaching of it is would be the immortality of the human soul, how the soul endures throughout time, and that this is just a staging area from which the spirit goes on its eternal journey. And so it's really complex, and there's so much to say about it, but I'll just suffice it to say that you can see that he's holding this lock of hair. So that lock of hair symbolizes that the soul, the spirit of the departed loved one, and so and then the pipe, it symbolizes the covenant that this woman brought. And if you ever look at pictures of 19th century people, especially Lakota or even anybody around this area, you see that they're always holding that pipe in front of them, and as if to say, this is me, this is who I am, this is my reality, this is my identity, this is my purpose. So what they're invoking again is that they have no existence, they have no identity outside of the covenant of God. That's what they're really saying when they hold up. And there's a lot more to it, but we'll just mention about that much. And but I think these pictures are so interesting. And you can see here, this tripod represents that departed loved one, the one that they're releasing right there. It just symbolizes that. And then so here's the family right here. Here's the family. And then this next slide shows the symbolic release of that soul to journey on throughout eternity. And they always say, this is just an aside, they always say that you can see it here in North America as the Milky Way. I guess that most people can't see it because of light pollution, but if you live out here where there's no light pollution, it's really just dominates the whole sky. You can see it so brilliant, so beautiful. And then you look straight up and you can see there's where the Milky Way forks. There's a fork in the path, and one road goes straight on. I know in English we call it Milky Way in English, but we call it Wanahi Chanku, the Spirit Road. And the road that goes straight, that's when we want to go throughout eternity, journey through eternity. But there is the fork and the one that goes off and it fades out to nothing. And then there's a bright star right at the crux at the junction. And that's an entity they call Hihankaha. So Hihankaha guards the road. So when a person is journeying on from this world on through eternity, they approach Hihankacha. And Hihankacha sees them coming and says, Hoya nituehe. He says, hey, who are you? And they get close to this. He says, Takույnichiapi, hey? He says, what is your name? And then you give your name, and then your reality appears. And then that Hihankacha might step aside, and you can go on straight. Or Hihankacha might block that road. You have to go on that one that trails off and fades out into nothing. So none of us knows what our fate is. But then you can see this this little image here. So the family will all prepare maybe a year and maybe 4 years or maybe throughout their life, and they'll perform good deeds on behalf of that departed loved one, and they'll pray through their good deeds in their name that they'll put them back up on that straight road that goes through eternity. Oh, there's a lot of things to say about it, but they still do that up to today. And another thing mentioned in the all the accounts of the spiritual heritage, not just of the Lakota, but it's also probably the oldest devotional gathering here on this continent, right here where we are, North America. And that we call this Inipi or Inikacha. And if you're from the Northern Europe, they might call it sauna. Or if you go to Holiday Inn, you might call it sauna. I don't know. I think they have it in a lot of the Holiday Inns, but it's a or I think in vernacular English they say sweat lodge. It doesn't sound good though. That doesn't sound very good. But we say inipi. Inipi, that means it's a verb. It means to go inside of here. Ini. But anyway, what they do is they use the 4 elements, and this was in existence long before the appearance of Ptehíŋčala Ska Wiŋ. But see, you're having audio issues. Somebody said that. You're not hearing me? Is that right, Boyd?
No, you are good.
I'm good. Okay.
Here's you fine.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, just if you're having problems, everybody, you can connect to us on Wilmette Institute or YouTube as well, or Facebook, I should say, but look for us on YouTube or Facebook.
Okay, good. It says audio is fine. Okay, good. I was just looking at the little notes down there. But again, this long precedes the appearance of Ptehíŋčala Ska Wiŋ, but she did affirm it. She affirmed this practice of the Inipi, and so really this is one of the original ancient devotional practices. They can find evidence of this in so many of the archaeological excavations throughout North America, going back to the very beginning of the presence of humanity here on this land. And basically what they do, they use the 4 elements. They use the fire, they use the water, they use the fire, the water, and of course the rocks, and then the air when they open the door. So these are the 4 elements of life that are used. That's why they call it Inikahapi, making to make life, because these are the elements that are foundational to all of existence. So it's really such a basic devotional practice that is really all encompassing and has so many infinite meanings. So this just simply shows that the family, and this is really interesting because it shows the woman here who tended the fire, and also the woman, she watches the door, because in some of the accounts of that the Lakota have, it's always been a woman who has brought the light. So when that woman opens the door up, brings the light, because this we mentioned this Ptehíŋčala Ska Wiŋ She's the third one. See, before her there was another one that brought all the light into the world, and that was the Tunkawakawi, the holy rock woman, holy stone woman. And then there was the Wanakjawashtewi, the beautiful flower woman. And then there was the Ptehíŋčala Ska Wiŋ, the white buffalo calf woman. See, so when the woman washes the door, they open the door. That brings all the light, all the air, the breath of life comes in. So that symbolizes the woman who inaugurates and initiates. And then there was the fourth one who was to appear. And that's what I read about on page, I think it's on page 110, when God passes by in the Siachal. So you can read that if you get a chance to read that. And there you can see it's just kind of an interesting, that woman, see, she's bringing that rock in there. She brought it in, and then who's ever pouring the water, this elder right here, he touches, it's just symbolic, touches that pipe to that rock, see, and then put it in that central pit right there. I just really like these illustrations. You see, it shows that when they put the water on the rocks, and then that steam comes up and enveloped in the steam. So it's kind of like, it's pitch dark, but here they depict it like that. You can see it. And then the person is emerged from that lodge, and you do really feel that feeling of being totally revitalized, resuscitated, and renewed. I'm just going pretty fast here, but you can see I'm not going to really cover all of these very adequately. In fact, I'm going to try and wrap it up. This is the other foundational teaching, which is the we call it Lakjūotiyapi, the law of fasting. Just like we know as Baha'is, you know, Baha'u'llah says, in the heaven of the religion of God, two shining orbs have been ordained, fasting and prayer. Fasting is the sun, and prayer is the moon thereof. So really fasting is the preeminent law. And it is really throughout North America. It's so significant, this law of fasting. This just shows this particular person chose to go up here, up on, we call this Matopaha, Bear Butte. It's near current town of Sturgis, just little ways east of Sturgis, South Dakota. It's near the Black Hills. But it looks like this up to today. You can look pretty much like this. And but anyway, this law of fasting is so preeminent. And this is where, you know, it's I think it's the same for all people, whether it's Ramadan, Yom Kippur, the Baha'i law of fasting. But here in North America, it's really intensified because I think it's more of an ordeal. It's more life and death because this is the way people connect with God, connect with the Creator, connect with the covenant of God. And really, you know, I think maybe there's more, life has a lot of contrasts out here. And so you have to have that spiritual foundation really in order to survive, to thrive. And this is where the people attribute all their you know, the medicines, the understandings they have of the spiritual world. You know, this is how all the understanding of the relationship of the creation, everything is derived through practice of the law of fasting. It's very, very significant, very important. And so this is, again, it's another one of the laws that was affirmed by the Ptehíŋčala Ska Wiŋ. This is really neat because you can actually go up on the top of Bear Butte and you can see the same view. Looks exactly like this. This is looking out. You'd be currently like Rapid City would be right about over here if you're looking there. So it's kind of facing towards the top of Bear Butte, kind of like south and just a little ways west here. It's really a great, great image. Standing on top of Bear Butte, right there. And this shows the, you know, the pipe This is the bowl and the stem, and it shows all these little. I really like how she used these little hummingbirds in there. We call these hummingbird. We call them tanachila, which means an embodied spirit. It literally means that, but of course, it's just a noun. It means hummingbird in English, and then with the butterflies, also very symbolic. But, this is a little section on the Sundance. Here, it's just a preliminary. It's quite important, but it's a little preliminary of getting the tree of life. Tree of life. Now, this is really an important ceremony throughout this region, throughout the central part of North America. And the tree of life that they select, it's a very important ceremony because it's the teaching of communal prayer. And the tree of life represents the presence of God. I think in Latin they call it the axis mundi, but it's the point of connection between heaven and earth and all of creation. And so then the people symbolically gather beneath it, and all the different dancers who are participating, you can see, and it's always a woman. You can see the woman here who leads everything off, and she's the one that symbolizes the Ptehíŋčala Ska Wiŋ. It's like a divine drama, a drama in which this presence of God is invoked, and so there's actually somebody who represents that, and all this was outlawed. The United States government outlawed all of this, and during the drought, during the Dust Bowl, it didn't rain here for 3 years. 3 years. I interviewed people who were here then. Nothing came up. No, not even a blade of grass. Nothing came up here for 3 years, and finally the nephew of Sitting Bull, his name was Ptehíŋčala. He explained to the government people here why it was like that. It was because the earth and God required the people to do their part here. It was being outlawed, prohibited by the government, and so he petitioned. He was granted permission to do that, to hold this ceremony, and his daughter Margaret, she lived here until relatively recently. She was the one that took that role. And anyway, I won't get into the details, but they actually did that Sundance here in the midst of the drought, the Dust Bowl. And when they got done, it rained for 2 weeks straight. Some of the people I talked to, they said this river that didn't have any water in it, there was like chicken coops, everything floating down there. The water was so high after they finished it. But anyway, that's just an anecdote. But, they all the people I talked to affirm that. But here's another image of the Sundance tree here. And these dancers, they represent the collective aspirations, devotional aspirations of all humankind. And yeah, this is the Sundance also, but this is the ending of the Sundance. This woman that's representing the Ptehíŋčala Ska Wiŋ offers the pipe to the elder who's in charge of everything. That's his role. And here's another teaching. I think I'll just go through these real fast because I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna go over time here. But this is another important teaching that has to do with the making of relatives. That corn symbolizes that, and in this area right where I live here is the convergence of these horticultural peoples. In this case, symbolized by, I'm not sure if it's a Stili or a Pawnee or what we call Palani or Rikra, but they were the corn harvesting people who had the gift of the corn. Actually, the holy soul that brought all these teachings to them was the mother corn. And so again, it's a woman who was their holy soul. But the main teaching is the making of relatives, the conjoining of possibly like foreign or hostile people, and then they're becoming one people, being spiritually related. And the corn represents that. That's quite complex as well. By the way, a lot of you live out there in those areas where they have the mound builder civilization. And a lot of those mounds, they just represent that the way that they grow corn, and they put that seed right there in that inside that when they grow corn like this time of year. But in this case, those mounds you see around where you live, they represent the place where the souls are planted in there. So then they blossom and they grow throughout eternity. It's quite in depth, but it's all connected to this. It's related. Where people live, a lot of you live in these areas now. This would be this person that's you can see that's make this being made a relative right here. And there's also the teaching of the coming of age of young women, because North America, it is this is within the Ptehíŋčala Ska Wiŋ. This is a matrilineal land here. For tens of thousands of years, people derive their identity, their birthright comes through the mother. Everything goes through the mother. And North America is quite unique in that. Like in other parts of the world, it's like 99% patrilineal descent. People have their birthright through their father, but North America is the exception to that. And it's because of these holy souls, the teachings they brought. You can see that here's this coming of age ceremony. And then maybe the last one I'll mention here, this is the seventh one, is this, they call it Lakjūotiyapi. It's the sacred ball game. A lot of people don't know this, but these team sports originated here on this side of the world. And then they kind of like evolved into things like soccer or basketball or football or things like that. But it represents the original teaching of it is that there's the dialectic of opposites. Like the would be the defensive side and the offensive side, and the ball represents the blessings of God, and then the struggle to achieve it. And so it's all part of a bigger prayer. But we do know that everybody does worship on those football Sundays anyway. They don't know where it comes from, but this is where it comes from. Really, it comes from these holy souls who brought it all, introduced that as a teaching. So I think with that, I better conclude this brief little overview of a few of the teachings of this holy soul that came. And I will mention that when people came from Europe over to this side of the world, the original people living here, they would always try to emphasize the spiritual heritage of the land. That's why they would always have that fire going, and that fire symbolizes the covenant, all the consultation that takes place. And so probably the best and most well documented of the holy souls that appeared was the peacemaker, who appeared amongst the Haudenosaunee, the Iroquois people, 5 nations, now 6 nations, and especially the account by Chief John Gibson. In I think he gave that in Onondaga language. I'm not sure, but it's still given. They still give these orations. All of these teachings are connected with the language. As long as we have our language, then these teachings seem to coexist, or they exist because of that. So thank you very much, Rob, for allowing me to say this much about this holy soul from this area, the Ptehíŋčala Ska Wiŋ. Very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. That was absolutely fascinating and uplifting and illuminating at the same time. I think it's safe to say we all benefited immensely from the images and from the explanations. And we have a lot of questions and comments as well, I've noticed. And some people have been putting them in the Q&A, the question and answer. Some people have been putting them in the chat. And I think we can handle both. I'll probably have to go back and forth a bit between them since we have quite a few. And I guess I'll start looking over here at the Q&A. And Jim asks, one can truly appreciate the importance of metaphor in sharing all of these spiritual principles and teachings in the stories you are sharing. He also goes on to ask the question, is the reference to Bear Butte the same Bear Butte as is associated with the Cheyenne Wise One sweet medicine?
Yeah, yes, it is. It is. It's the, if you go on, if you're going from Sturgis and then you go around on the west side of Bear Butte, you get over towards the northwest side, then you'll see there's a road, there's an approach there, and that as you go on that approach, then there you can see that the Cheyenne, they have his name is his last name is Limpy. He's the he's got a house right there, and he's the assigned caretaker of that, because the spot where sweet medicine was going to go up on top of Bear Butte, but when he got there, then the mountain opened up. He went inside, and that's where the one who authorizes all the holy souls to come to earth was there, and along with all the concourse of holy souls, and had sweet medicine sit down beside him, and he gave those instructions to bring back to the Cheyenne people. But it's there. It's on the northwest side of the Bear Butte. But yeah, you're right. But the view that was on that image there was on kind of on the more on the kind of around further on the west side. That image of Bear Butte. Yeah, you're right. Thank you.
So it's a sacred place for Lakota as well as the Cheyenne then.
Yeah, everybody really, because the whole area has been a place of pilgrimage for I think it's like 30 different tribes. I was there last summer, and there's a whole delegation of Kiowa. They made that long trip, like, I don't know, 1,000 miles from around Carnegie, Apache, Oklahoma, down there by Lawton. And a whole bunch of them got in. They came up to the Black Hills to make a pilgrimage to that site that they claim as also their holy, their shrine, their Mecca, like that. Yeah.
Chris asks, did the White Buffalo Calf woman promise to return?
Yes, they all do. All the accounts they do reference that she would return, or that she would because she was authorized by Tunkashila, the grandfather, the one who sends all the holy souls to earth, and that she would return, and that she would usher in the appearance of the grandfather, the one who authorized her to appear, who commissioned her. See, that's why I always connect it to the Siachal, the apparition. You see, that Bahalasa, the maid of heaven.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
That was the other half of the question. Is
that's just my own personal
that White Buffalo
understanding.
Calf woman was the maid of heaven in the Siachal, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like somehow connected or related. That's my own personal understanding.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I think that could be really heretical, what I'm saying. That's just the way I see it. I can't help it. I don't know.
I don't know if the Baha'is would consider heretical, but maybe the Lakota would consider it heretical.
So I think a lot would. Yeah. That's right.
So many questions coming in so quickly. I can't keep up with them all. But I'll keep going down through the Q&As right now, and then I'll get over to the chat. What is the Lakota belief in the station of men and women?
Well, I think I really covered it quite extensively, and and that is that I went to great lengths to mention about the fact that North America, not just the Lakota, but throughout North America, it's so overwhelmingly matrilineal. Mm-hmm. So then just as an example, like in the traditional culture here, the home belongs to the woman. See, home belongs to woman. So if traditionally, if let's say hypothetically, but it did occur, if a divorce occurs, then all that woman has to do is just pack up all his clothes, whoever that is, her husband or whatever, just put it outside the door, and that's how they finalize the divorce. Yeah. Anyway, that's just an example. I didn't really answer the question, but I think it's pretty clear that this is it is matrilineal, like especially like the Haudenosaunee. You know, it's the men have a leadership role, but it's the women who put them in power, and it's the women who remove that power if they're not functioning according to their what their assignment is. So they have the obligation to remove that power, but only the women can do that. Yeah.
Left it in the right set of hands, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
A mundane question: pipestone, does it come from Minnesota? Is there a particular location that the Lakota tradition connects the pipestone from?
Yeah, the pipestone is a scientific word for it's called Catlinite, and that's after George Catlin. He was a famous painter who was I think the first like Euro-American or whatever to depict that area back in the early 1800s with his paintings. But it has been one of the most important archaeological sites in North America throughout time. But one of the explanations for the significance of the reason why that it's there is that when the world was destroyed by a flood, not everyone was wicked. There were some holy souls that prayed, and the prayer that they made was that the heavenly aspect, or the collective prayer they made was that the heavenly qualities or the ascendant nature of the human spirit have continuity. So they made that prayer. And now these holy souls who made that prayer, they died too. They perished in the flood. But their remains went down into the earth and were transmuted into this pipestone or catlinite, because it's very soft. It has a beautiful color, red color. It's very soft. And then the wicked ones on the earth, they also went down to earth, and their remains were transmuted into it's called Sioux Quartzite. If you ever go let's say anywhere around there, like say Sioux Falls or Pipestone or anywhere, Garrettson, anywhere around there, you can see all the buildings are all made of that Sioux Quartzite. It's a very dense, very hard material. Mm-hmm. And so even the wicked ones, their lives were they're this symbolic. They were transmuted into substance which is very hard and dense, but it forms over the top of the catlinite, so it protects that. Uh-huh. But over the course of millions of years, the bison going through there wore it down, you see. And so then that Sioux Quartzite came down, and so then the catlinite was exposed in those buffalo trails. Mm-hmm. That's how they found it, see. So even the bison brought it. But it does symbolize the covenant. Did I completely get off the topic there, or was that what that person was asking, do you think?
I think they were asking basically that question about the source of the pipestone. Yeah.
That's right. There's a town called Pipestone, Minnesota. And there's actually a city there, a couple thousand people there. It's right close there. It's just on just north of the town there. It's Pipestone National Monument. And tribal members can still go there to quarry the stone. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. An interesting question here. Is there a succinct listing of the principles taught by the White Buffalo Calf Woman?
Yes, there is. It's in that. It's in the account. It's right in here. It's by Ishnalawicha gave it there. Oh, I won't go into it. It takes too long. They can reference page 64.
Page 64.
Yeah.
Good. Another question here. Do you consider these holy souls manifestations of God?
Personally, we don't know for sure. We don't know. We know that we do know the manifestations of God that are that are enumerated, and then we know that Abdu'l-Baha did add some onto there, such as I think Buddha and Krishna and perhaps Zoroaster, that were added onto what was already identified in the Kitab-i-Gan, I believe the Kitab-i-Gan. And but then this other category that the Abdu'l-Baha mentions, which is the holy souls that appeared here in North America. So I don't know exactly how that fits into this hierarchy. That's not for me to say. But we do know that in English it's translated as call of God. Call of God. The call of God hath been raised. And I think it's in Persian language, Farsi language. So this, I understand that refers to actually a holy soul that appeared and raised the call of God here on this land. Whatever, hierarchically, however they fit in, that I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did the Yaquis also believe in the white buffalo calf woman?
Probably at that time, let's say before 1500, they may or may not have heard, because that's way down there. Yaquis are from Sonora, south of Eagle. Basically, there's some Yaquis over there by Tucson. What is that? San Javier del Bac, Pascua. Pascua is, I think, is the name of the community. But most Yaquis are down further down, other side of the border.
Mm-hmm.
Some on this side, most on the other side. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. They probably didn't hear, but they have their own teachings. You see, down there. Yeah, of course.
Yep. The sweat lodge might not be very effective or useful in a hot climate like that.
Yeah, but they do have what they call I think it's called Temazcal. Temazcal, I think is how they say it. It's something analogous to it among some people over in Mexico.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Gary says the peacemaker was a man, but it was still the women of the Haudenosaunee who gave and take the power from the male chiefs. Do those tribes also have female manifestations?
That I don't know, but the what is it over there? I can't remember the name. I've been there actually, but there's actually the City of Peace. The City of Peace that was the place in which the first one to recognize the peacemaker was a woman, and so then that hereditary position was always regarded as the place where that woman lived was the City of Peace. I'll think of it later, the name of it. But you see, George Washington knew that. He knew that was the most important place. That's why he intentionally, I think he burnt it down like 2 or 3 times, George Washington. And so that's why in some of the Haudenosaunee language, I think George Washington is known as the destroyer of peace, or the town burner. Yeah. Because you see those people back then, those like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, they knew these things. They knew that because this is very important. And when their interaction with the indigenous people are always very clear about their authority, that it's a divine authority. And so George Washington knew which town to destroy. Which was the heart of the Haudenosaunee. That woman's town. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah.
One person asks about the relationship between Lakota practices and this concept of shamanism.
Shaman is a word in Buryat language. It's also, I think, in Mongolian language.
Siberia.
Yeah, it's a Siberian word. And I don't know what exactly it means over there. I don't know. But you see, I think in English it came to mean some things, like shamanism. What is that? To me, this is one of the things that I might sound like I'm just evading the question, but this is really tantamount to the provisions of the various covenants given here in North America is the making of relatives, that we become connected with all of creation. And a lot of it is tied into all these different ceremonies, in particular the law of fasting. So through the law of fasting, we become intimate with various aspects of creation, And so then these are things that are considered quite normal. I don't think we even have a word in Lakota that would really exactly. I know we don't have anything to relate to what the New Age movement thinks about shamanism. Nothing like that.
Mhm.
But the main point I'm trying to make is that we do have this close connection with all of creation as part of the provisions of the covenant.
Right.
And we do constantly invoke that and renew that and celebrate those connections.
Yeah, that's a good answer, I think. One person asks about the white buffalo miracle. The person who was born, the buffalo that was born in Wisconsin in, I think, 1994. And the whole question of whether buffaloes can change their color over time, and this is some sort of sign of encouragement and a blessing. Do you know anything about all of that topic?
Yeah, I saw that buffalo in Janesville, Wisconsin. Yeah, and ever since then there's been a lot of white buffalo that have occurred, and so these white buffalo, somebody was putting out a calculation that 1 in 7 million bison is white.
Huh.
So, but there's an unusually high number of them being born in recent years, and so the only thing that I think about that is that it's simply a symbolic, and it's just like a wake up call. It's a wake up call for humankind to realize that we're living in this most propitious moment in human history right now, when we have this great opportunity to accelerate the forces of integration. Because see, this reason why this woman is named Ptehíŋčala Ska Wiŋ, White Buffalo Calf Woman, because that buffalo symbolizes all of the material bounties and blessings of this physical world, whereas that white buffalo just simply symbolizes the analogous or the counterpart in the spiritual worlds, the spiritual bounties, those things that bring everlasting life, not just the physical life. So see, for me, the way I understand these white buffalo is that we're living at this moment now when we have the opportunity to transform the world and to align ourselves with the forces of integration that are just pouring out at this time now. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's a wake-up call.
You had mentioned 3 women, one being the stone woman and the third one being the white buffalo calf woman. And could you give the names of these 3 again and elaborate them again so that people, especially can remember the name of the second one?
Okay, yeah. And now I'll just state this again. This is not something that's really written down that I've ever seen, but my mom's uncle would say these things, talk about these things, and he mentioned these names too. And the first one, and he didn't say any time frame, but they were in ancient times. These are ancient times. The Tunka Wakawi, the Holy Stone Woman. Okay. Next one, number 2. Wanachja Washtéwi, the beautiful flower. See. Yeah, if you ask me, I can write these all out. But do you see? Do you hear that? These are the kingdoms. See, the mineral kingdom, the plant, the animal, and now, of course, it's the time. Because that 4 is throughout North America. That represents fulfillment or completion. That's where we are now.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Let's see. The tree of life. You mentioned the tree of life. People note that that's found in the holy books of many, many peoples around the world, like you said. One person, Lena, asked the question about the outlawing of the sun dance. and why it was outlawed. Can you fill people in on the history of this relationship between traditional religion and the government, and for that matter, the missionaries?
Yeah, this was something that was very important to the U.S. government, was to eradicate the languages, cultures, and especially the spiritual heritage. So the spiritual heritage, which is really the foundation, was always stigmatized as being satanic. It's all satanic. It's from the devil. It's a demon. So this is why the whole boarding school movement, which was founded by Colonel Henry Pratt, his motto was "Kill the Indian." Now this is not hearsay. He wrote this. He said this straight out. Kill the Indian, save the man. See, so what he's saying there is to wipe out the identity, which is a satanic identity. See, satanic identity. To kill that and to save the man, which is for the people to become fully acculturated and to
and Christian.
And Christian. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So this was not, and this is pretty much all throughout the colonial history. It's been like this. But this was not officially abrogated until 1978. 1978, which is when the American Indian Freedom of Religion Act was implemented, officially, thereby abrogating all those condemnatory statutes that outlawed not just a Sundance, but everything, even to have a feast, even to have even a powwow. They couldn't do that. It was all outlawed right here. It's in the books. It's all in the books right here. It was all prohibited. That's why I remember I mentioned when that man who lived not too far from here, to have a Sundance, he had to get official permission. And they had another Sundance. World War II was dragging on, and they asked permission to have a Sundance there to pray for peace, and it was granted. And just after, on the last day of that Sundance, that's when they had armistice. They had it was. So it's all documented. Those. Anyway, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why. That's if you ever go up to like our neighbors up here in Manitoba, they call it rain dance over there. Ask them, why do you guys call it a rain dance over there? Oh, because they outlawed the Sundance over here too. And so then when they're putting on their Sundances, the Mounties would go over there like that, and the Mounties would get up there and they'd say, "Hey, what's going on here? Is this an illegal Sundance?" And whoever could speak English, "Oh, no, it's drought. We're having a rain dance over here." "Oh, rain dance? Oh, that's good. Carry on." So they still do call it a rain dance up there. And it's the same thing, yeah.
As I understand it, the various reservations in the Dakotas were divided up between the Catholics and the Episcopal Church. Is that right?
Yes, yeah, that's right, yeah.
They assigned them. Yep.
Yeah, it's like a pie, because at that time when the reservations were being formed, there was a lot of millennial fervor out in the East, and so a lot of these different churches, they lobbied their congressmen and everything to, because of this proselytization, all that zeal to apportion different reservations to different churches. So they're kind of like divided up like pies. So you can see that all throughout the region here, like in some places, like Congregational, Presbyterians, and it's all Lutherans. It's all divided up everywhere you go around here. But that was all done by the way back, when after they formed the reservations, by the different churches lobbying their congressmen for that. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Paul asks, can you give an update about the pipeline and water protections?
Yeah, that was a big movement here at Standing Rock, this pipeline, and then of course it was all dispersed, and then that was the activities, a lot of this activism, it did persist, and it's persisting, and a lot of it is very good activism, and a lot of it is just politically motivated, and it's kind of self-serving and egotistical. So you have to kind of weigh it. It's not all good, the way it was channeled. And we know all this politicizing, what that is. It can be very divisive. So it goes both ways. I just wanted to say that it's not all good. It's not all bad. Yeah.
I'm scanning on down through the chats here.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people saying thank you, and a lot of people saying
Okay.
hello, and a lot of people asking for prayers for relatives and things. And you may want to take a look at some of those messages later.
Okay, if I can, I would like to see
sure,
it. Yeah.
I'm sure Boyd can provide those to you.
All right, good.
Let me see. Do you envision a pragmatic path for the manifestation of melding of these truths, the indigenous truths, with the spirit of the Baha'i faith, to accelerate transcendence of our human family in this time of purification?
Yeah, I do see that's a good question, isn't it? It's really good. And I do see that because no matter what, our ancestors, they have they had visions, they had prayers, they had hopes, they had aspirations. And so much of that, or if not most of it, is founded on the seed of faith, seed of inspiration planted here by these holy souls who raised the call of God here. And so they prayed this way. And now we're living at the time when we can realize and fulfill those prayers on their behalf. So we can do that. And it's really up to us now to do that, to arise and to understand, to really, because, all of us, no matter who we are, wherever our roots are, we all have these precious gifts to bring forward into this emerging global civilization. And so we really owe it to our ancestors to do these things. And now is the time to do it. Now is really the time when we can do these things. So this is really my hope, my prayer, is that we can accelerate this process. And we know as Baha'is, we're entering the stage in the development of the faith where we're really releasing these society building powers. The whole earth is being suffused with these society building powers. And this is really what these holy souls in the past have come to do, and to foretell the day that we're living in now. This whole earth will be immersed in this power, this spiritual energy. And we are, but we just have to enable it to be released somehow. We have to do this. But we do have, I shouldn't say somehow, because we do have a clear path before us as to how to do this. But we just have to do it. We just have to do it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we're having all the conferences now
Yeah.
talk about these things, exactly these kind of things.
Yeah. Exactly.
How are we going to better release these society building powers in the world? How we can do that within our communities, and of course as individuals, with the shoulder to shoulder with the institutions of the faith. Yeah.
Chris Buck notes that he has been listening to the songs, the 18 songs that were recorded, I guess, on wax cylinders by Lone Man.
Yes.
And looking through them, he's identified 10 primary positive ethical and moral teachings of the White Buffalo Calf Woman. He's listed them in the Q&A.
Good.
Possess great respect and reverence towards all sacred things. Live as belonging to one family. Be always very faithful to promises. Cease hostilities against other nations. Administer help to the sick. Comfort others in times of sorrow. Show kindness towards every living creature on earth. Remember the dead. Love your children dearly. Above all, lead pure lives. So those are the 10 that he.
Yes.
Those
are in that book that Teton Sioux music. That yeah, page 64.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. That was
He was
wonderful.
writing them out for us, which is really
Oh, that's
very
great.
helpful.
Yeah, that's
Very,
fantastic.
very helpful.
It is.
One person asks about the question of the seventh generation. Can you talk about the idea of the seventh generation?
Yeah, this is really important. It's really foundational, and you can see this will be invoked quite often by people all over. But it's simply the thought or the teaching. I think that that how our actions, affect, and this is really what they take into consideration in the consultative process, how our actions affect not just the current generation and not just human beings, but extends out to all of creation. All of creation, all life, all everything, and that relatedness that we have with all of creation, and not just here and now, but going forward into the future, maybe up to 7 generations in the future. But it also goes back to the past. Let's like we were saying, like we ourselves, we're that center point right now where we are, because those ancestors in the past, they prayed for this day that we're living in right now. And we have this relationship with those that are unborn. So this is that teaching right there that we have this really solemn responsibility. It's like a stewardship responsibility that we have, relationship that we have with all of creation.
Very good. A couple of other interesting questions here. I think we have time for a few more. Well, David asks about any linguistic and cultural connections between the Lakota people and the Nahuatl, the people. I think they believe those are the Aztec people.
Yeah. Well, Nahuatl are what the linguists who study those things. They're within this language family, which is Uto or Uto Aztecan. That's how they call that language family, and that's a language family that includes like Comanches, down there in around Lawton, Oklahoma, Apache, Oklahoma, down there. It includes the Shoshones, not just the ones over here in Wyoming, but even over towards Utah, over that way, and further west. The Ute and the Paiute, those are all part of that same family. And I'm sure there's a lot more too, but I'm not much of a linguist. But these, of course, the Aztec or the Nahuatl people, they in their traditions, they journeyed from their homelands in the north, and it's quite extensive. I think there's several million people who speak Nahuatl language. Of course, the Aztec Empire were much like the Romans. They tried to conquer as much as they could, and then they imposed their language.
Mm-hmm.
And so since 1520 or whenever it was that Coronado was there, the language was not eradicated, but it simply split up, just like Latin broke up into French and Romanian and Spanish, all this. So yeah, so it did break up a bit, but they still trace there, and so there's cognate languages in different areas, and they have a range, not just around Mexico City, but for, going out, branching out all around. And there's a lot of speakers. It's being revitalized too, quite a bit. I've heard different podcasts about the success of revitalization of Nahuatl.
Interesting. Oh, let's see. There's a few other things here. Could you also can we put in the chat or the Q&A the title of these books that you've mentioned? Perhaps someone can do that for us. But another person here who is Yaki. White Baha'is will need to learn how to teach people of color respectfully instead of going in with both barrels blazing from a white-only perspective. I am Yaki, Mexica. When I was planning my daughter's quinceañera, I was informed by several Baha'is that she shouldn't have one. Luckily, there were other Baha'is who were wholeheartedly on board and even gave a speech on the equality of men and women. Indeed, a friend of mine who's Baha'i just had a quinceañera the other day right here in South Bend, Indiana. So why not?
Why not? That's my question.
Why not? and I should add that this person who had the quinceañera is not even technically of Latina background. It's just that she has a step parent who is. So we have, let's see. Another person makes this comment. In Mexico, there is a prophecy among several indigenous peoples about a song of the promised day, where there will be seen the Father, the Son, and the grandson hanging on one tree. David Villaseñor interpreted this as the family tree of the founders of the faith. The Maya also have this prophecy. Do you know of any tribes in the USA that have this prophecy also?
The prophecy of seeing these connected with the tree?
Yes, the Father, the Son, and the grandson.
Oh, I see. Okay. I really don't know anything about that. I'm not qualified to talk about. I haven't done any research, but that sounds like a fascinating topic. I'd like to find out more. Thank you.
Yeah. And I should add that you and Chris Buck have been teaching this course about indigenous holy ones for the Wilmot Institute. And how many holy ones have now been identified in that list?
Oh, we have quite a few. Chris
15 or 20. Chris can stick that in the chat, maybe.
It's quite a few, I know.
It keeps getting longer.
It does. It really does. Yeah.
Information about the Illinois Miami one that we had just heard about recently too.
Yes, yeah.
There's so many of these comments, and I probably can't ever get to all of them, so we're probably going to have to do one or two more and then stop here, because it's just so many comments people are making. Let me see if I can find another question in here.
You know, I'm an adopted member of the Mishkwaki, who their Aboriginal homeland is, like around Chicagoland and even going up over towards Michigan and Indiana there, and they currently live in Tama County, Iowa. But I've been to a lot of activities over there. There's no English allowed. They don't use it at all. And I don't speak their language, but I'll sit in there. But they do attribute, you hear that name, Wissahichuk, in there too. Yeah. Yeah. So that would be probably connected with the kind of like the holy soul, the inspirational soul from that area where many of you reside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think I've mostly gotten through them all. But one person does say here, if people have not yet taken the course, The Great Spirit Speaks, Voices of the Wise Ones, taught by Kevin Locke and Christopher Buck through the Wilmot Institute, is highly recommended. It goes in great detail on this subject matter and so much more. And I think that's very true. Mm-hmm. That perhaps is a good conclusion for this particular session, Kevin.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Such marvelous questions, and you've given us such an incredible presentation today. So I want to thank you very much again for this really marvelous program.
Oh, thank you for making it possible. Thank you very much.
We're really delighted.
All right,
and I
very
should
good.
add that 2 weeks from today, Nadema Agard is going to talk about, again, the White Buffalo Calf Woman and the indigenous perspective on the divine feminine. So we're going to have another presentation by another, she's Lakota as well, I guess, about this subject and from a different perspective. Mm-hmm. And in between, next week, we're going to have a 5-part symposium for Baha'i authors. There will be a session on how to write for children, a session on how to write for junior youth, a session for how to write for youth, a session on how to write historical works, and a general session with the Baha'i Publishing Trust, George Ronald, and the literature review person in the United States, talking about the manuscripts they're looking for. So we have some very interesting programs coming up, and wanted to refer everyone to those as well. Thank you, everybody, today for coming. We have lots and lots of thank yous popping in right now in the chat. And I will say, people are asking, yes, this recording will be up on our YouTube channel, probably by tomorrow or the next day. And we will be sending that link out as well in our publicity later this coming week. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you again in the future. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rob. Bye.